Hi everybody, my name's Sean and welcome to the How to Hero YouTube channel, where it's my job to help awaken the hero within you. There's a hero within all of us. Today I wanted to talk about contacting your spirit guides and how you go about that, and how you can sort of bring in guidance from your spirit team in order to help traverse your world and sort of help guide you, help you with decisions, and help shed some light on different things. Now this is a very personal journey. So that's the first thing I want to start with, is just it's very personal to you. It's not something that will just happen out of nowhere, most likely, unless you've sort of grown up in tune with your guides. Like some people have kind of always felt this guide with them. So I hear a lot about that, where people have, even from a young age, they have the same guide, and it's the same specific guide, and maybe they know their name, maybe they know it's a passed down loved one or something like that. Because your spirit guides can be a whole mix and wide range of sort of infinite possibilities, and there's all different frequencies. So first I wanted to talk about what I believe and my perception and how I've experienced this. And again, it's very personal, so you have to go within and really examine your own experience in order to fully grasp sort of what's going on. For me, I have different frequencies of guides. They're different connections that are made to me spiritually that I can contact now and call upon for wisdom. And so I'll talk a little bit about my personal experience with my guides and sort of how it evolved, just a little bit. And I'll talk a little bit about, I actually did a video on what are spirit guides, I think, but in this I want to talk about how we actually connect with them. So for me, I started to notice that I had a little voice in my head that was sort of cheering me on, and it was it was different from that negative voice that you hear, the sort of the nasty roommate that I think Eckhart Tolle put that in his. I think it was Eckhart Tolle, but somebody basically talked about how there's this nasty roommate that lives in your mind that is constantly talking crap about everything that's going on in your world. And it's that voice that we listen to that causes us to feel down. It drags us down. It pulls us into this depth of sort of darkness where we hold on to those ties. So in this situation, we want to not focus on those things. Your guides are beings of light and love. They're not there to drag you down. They're not going to give you information that is going to scare you. They also don't want to scare you. So that's the other thing that's really important, is if you're not open to them coming in, and for you, because they may show in physicality, like you may see them. It depends on your clairvoyance, and it depends on a couple different things. But when you start to call them in, things could get weird, and they'll come in different ways. But they're not going to come in if you're not ready. And so the first thing that you need to try and really sit with and understand is that they are there. They're actually a part of you. Now, time is not real, right? We know that time's an illusion. And I'm not going to go into that. Maybe I'll talk about that. That's a whole other topic. I could talk about that for hours, probably. Hours of time that isn't real. But I kind of got myself sidetracked. So at any point in time, we have particular guides that are there to guide us in that particular moment of our life, and the things that are most relevant to the likely potentials, the likely quantum potentials of where our energy is flowing. So when we talk about the future, it's really just a mix of infinite quantum possibilities, and for us to then travel down those paths. So what happens is we bring in guides based on what we're doing. So if you're a singer-songwriter, right, you may have a guide that has done multiple incarnations, or has assisted other singer-songwriters with their craft. And so they will come in with guidance on that particular journey or that particular task. And if that particular task and type of stuff, that type of work, is something that you continuously do, they're going to stay with you. But if you stop doing that stuff, it's possible that guide may vacate, right? It really is a team that gets built around you. And some people have one guide, some people have three, some people have four. But it gets built around you based entirely on your disposition and sort of what you're doing and how you're going about your life. So for me, the first time I started talking with my guides, there were 6 of them. Actually, the first time I think was Merlin. Merlin came through as one of my guides, and he was the first guide who came through. It was Merlin and Morgana, who came through as this wizard and witch sort of pair, and I think they represented the divine masculine and divine feminine, and the creation of magic, like magic itself, right? The concept of magic. That's sort of how I view that guide, and it's a very powerful energy, and I think that at that space, these energies are conscious energies. These are frequencies that you're tuning into. These are real entities, and the entity is comprised of many different things, and different expertises. And so as you traverse down your road, you start to need some more guidance from different types of things. And so your higher self will pull in, and your intent through your desires and your intentions and will pull in what we need to our field. And then when we no longer need those ties, we let them go. And there's no like ill will. It's not like, oh, you suddenly don't need me. No, it's not like that. They're grateful for their opportunity to serve what they were able to serve. And then when their time is done serving, they're grateful for their opportunity again. And they thank you and they're off. And, it's for those reasons that sometimes our guides will go quiet, maybe because they're just not really needed. And so for me, I rely heavily on Archangel Michael, Archangel Gabriel, Archangel Raphael, and Archangel Uriel. They represent the air, fire, earth, and water elements in magic practice. And so I've developed a very strong relationship with those archangels in particular, as well as Merlin. And then also I speak with a council of dragons. I call it a council. It's not really a council. But it's a group of 12 dragons, and they all have different colors and different sort of personalities and stuff too. And they come in and they give me guidance. Their guidance is typically more, how do I say it, more aggressive in many ways. It's they use their sort of fire as a cleansing agent, and they can help you see the truth with what's going on. But sometimes that truth is a little bit hard to take in. So anyways, and then I guess I'll just talk quickly as well. I speak with a council of 6 that represents the star team that I'm a part of, the galactic star team, known as Ka. And I'm essentially on the ground team. And there's a lot like me, not as many. Some are very vocal, some are sort of not vocal yet. We're activating at different times. And we're part of the wave of volunteers who came to help raise the vibration of the earth. And so I received guidance from them that's more based on the actual starseed mission, if you resonate with that at all. And the other group that I connect with that's a galactic group is the Nameless Nine. These are, I believe, the creators of our universe. The initial fragmentation of Source into the 9, which then started to sort of spread out and build everything. The builders, the architects of all, and so I call them the Nameless Nine because I don't know, they don't have names really. They're very angelic type beings. But they don't have names. They're difficult to put a form to. They are more like just pure energy. They're pure light. They don't have like physical bodies or anything like that. So anyways, how to actually connect with them. The first thing you need to do, excuse me, I got like indigestion or something. The first thing you need to do is understand that they are there, that they are a part of you. They're there, okay? So they're already there with you. They're there with you, and they're likely actually speaking with you already and giving you information, giving you clues, giving you, kind of think of it like that, like a little puzzle game, right? They give you little pieces of information. But because their energy is so subtle, it's hard to identify that it's actually a guide coming through. And so for me, I'm mostly claircognizant. So what that means is that I have a clear knowing. I can't often explain where information comes from. It just comes in, and I have it, and I understand it to be true, and I believe it. Now, and I'm not often, I'm not often shown otherwise, right? So if the information comes through and I feel it as true, and then it resonates as truth, most likely I won't find information that changes that. It tends to be pretty consistent. And so what we first need to do is try to really tune in to our own energy and really understand sort of how we feel when we're having ideas, when we're thinking concepts, things like that, when we're having visions. It's sort of like building a relationship with your guides. It's almost like meeting a new friend. The friend has been there the whole time, but they're not necessarily, you're not necessarily aware of them, and the signs that they give you are pretty subtle. As you connect more and more, the signs get much more obvious to you, as well as they become, you may eventually start to understand the personalities of the energetic frequencies you're connecting with. So you start to understand that, okay, this is Merlin. Merlin engages me in this way. So for me, Merlin speaks literally in like rhymes and riddles. He doesn't ever say what he means. He rhymes in this like poetry of riddle, that, it's kind of like when Gollum and Bilbo are in the cave and they're playing that riddle game. It's a lot like that with Merlin. He gives me little riddles, and then there are little paradoxes that I need to solve. Like, for example, like, when is a door not a door? When it's a jar. So just little things like that, but more, I guess, spiritually focused, or more focused around trying to help me see out of the box that I've put myself in, usually. So usually if I'm dealing with Merlin, it's in some type of situation where I believe I can use magical practice to help widen my perspective. And I call in Merlin to help me with that, because it can be a subtle understanding, a subtle almost awakening and epiphany. And that's what I'm looking for in that situation. If I were to call it dragon in, for example, for that, it would be too much, like too exposing. And it can feel too intense. And because the dragons, they come in and they're like I can feel the energy, like my whole body goes warm. I start to growl a little bit. I'm not even joking. I know it's weird, but I start to growl a little bit when they come through, and I get a little gruff, a little rough. It's still all love, but they speak to me in like growls almost. And it's all very lovely though. It's hard to explain. It sounds worse. It sounds like a bad thing or a freaky thing, but it's really not. But if somebody sees me doing that, yeah, they probably would be a little freaked out, making me look like a weirdo. But I am a weirdo, so that's fine. And then when I'm working with the galactic teams, they're very, very precisely worded. Like everything they say is so precise, and they're so removed from trying to give me a direct answer that they sort of speak in truth, but they speak in like a masked way. So they speak in these different sort of perspectives, like galactic perspectives, and they talk a lot about planetary alignments and energy and gateways, and they talk about the oneness and the law of one. Is a lot of what they talk about. They help me to look at situations that are polarizing me. So I'm having an experience and I'm feeling like it's a positive experience, and then I'm like, but wait, maybe it's a negative experience because this and this. And then they'll come through and say, no, actually it's all one experience. It's all neutral, and it's all and here's how you can look at that. And it helps me to center that way. And so once you start to really understand that these guides are real, that they are coming through, that you are engaging with entities, that's when it will start to get more profound for you. And you're going to find, I think, at least for me, is a lot of this is because you haven't been speaking to them your whole life. Most likely, if you're watching this video, you haven't been speaking to them your whole life, or you haven't been directly engaging them in any way that you're conscious of. You almost have to build that trust within yourself. You have to trust that it's real, and it's the trust and the acceptance and the surrender to it that helps you to actually experience it. If you don't believe that you have guides, the guides won't come through, because that non-belief needs to be, it's like a barrier. it's a resistance to their energy, and so they can't come through without your belief. It's if we talk about like the sovereignty and the law of consent. So this is a universal law that is in place to ensure that beings are sovereign. So as sovereign beings, we allow what we want into our energy field. So the most important thing that I just keep hammering on is that we need to understand that it's real and that it's true. And for example, I'll just show you this. So this is a picture. I still wrapped up, but this is a picture that I just randomly was drawn to by my dragons. There's a guide that I have that it's my higher self, I think, that has this sort of, even though higher selves are like, they don't have a gender. My higher self seems to have a more feminine energy. So I almost believe this is my dragon collective connecting with my higher self. And I think some of them are from Malduk. But I believe that's what this is. And I was just stumbling around in this shop, and I was just like guided by my dragons. Look at this. And it was like all that fiery that I was talking about, that warmth and stuff. And I'm like, oh, and then I'm like, okay, I got to get it. So it's still wrapped up because I don't have anywhere to put it just yet. So I just put it back there, leave it there for now. But it just represents to me that I allowed in the dragons, and that's one of the reasons I have the nose ring as well, is I went through this like naming ceremony that I talked about in a stream way back. I think it was my first stream called Stream of Divinity, and I think it's the first one where I talk about my naming. If you want me to talk about that or want to hear more about that. So after you've sort of connected understood that it's real, the next step is to take a couple steps back and then spend some time internalizing what you want to get out of your spirit guides and what you're looking for. What type of information are they going to help you with? What type of guidance can they give you? Like I have a spirit guide that is some kind of dancer. I don't know anything about this guide. I actually think they're from like an extra dimensional place where literally everybody just dances. That's what I think. And so it's not uncommon for me to, like, if I'm getting energetically overwhelmed, I'll suddenly be drawn to put on some sort of music, and it's always the right song. And I'll just dance. And, I've never been like a dancer. But a couple times I was like, I'm just going to go to the club and just dance. So I did that, just in the middle of the week or whatever. I'd go dance for a few hours and then leave the club, all by myself. But, it helps to, the movement, like exercise, right? It helps to flow out the body, or flow some of the energy out of the body that's maybe too much. And so this guide comes in when I'm overwhelmed. It comes in when I just need to get this energy off my chest, and I seem to not be aware of what caused it or how to deal with it. And then I can dance it out. And so I'm hoping that by sharing these experiences, I can help shed some light on what it's actually like to talk with your spirit guides. In my particular experience, this is what it's like, but it's all happening just in the mind, right? It's all a part of me and in the mind, and clear knowing, like, oh, this is this guide, this is that guide, this is these guides. And the only way to really distinguish is to keep working with the energies, keep that open communication. As you put down the energy, if you leave it for too long, the connections might weaken. It really depends. But if you keep bringing them in and keep working on the skills typically, or the specialties that these guides have, that's when they'll stay and they'll keep showing themselves. So it's quite a magical thing, really, to experience this. And while it does all exist in the what I call the localized energy infrastructure, like the localized unique energy infrastructure of that unique avatar and expression of consciousness, that's where those energies connect, but they are bigger than you as well. So they may be serving multiple people. For example, like Merlin, I'm totally aware that he visits many people, many people. And almost the more power that entity has, the more people they'll be able to assist at a given time. So when you hear people say something like, oh, Merlin's guiding me, when you first hear that, you're like, whatever, bud, right? Like, Merlin doesn't have time for that. But the funny thing is Merlin doesn't have time. So he literally just works in that plane of no time. And he is able to manage his energy and send it to people who need it. And so even just hearing this and understanding this, he may visit you. And so I'd love to hear if Merlin's been visiting you, because that would be a pretty nice synchronicity, I think, for you to help show you that these guides are in fact real. Or you may suddenly start to see Merlin everywhere after you watch this video, because once people really become aware of these guides and how they work, that's when they start to come in. When they see others, this is the whole reason I'm doing this video, is because it's kind of exposing my own experience, but also it helps give permission to people to go, oh, this person is having all these experiences that I had, that I just kind of thought I was crazy. So that's why I'm called to sort of share this stuff, is so people don't feel like they're nuts. Now, the important thing there is your guides are going to help you, right? They're of the light, and they're going to guide you to things that are good for you. So if you feel like you're being guided to things that are not good for you, then it's probably not your guides, right? Well, I could say it's definitely not your guides. Your guides are going to guide you to paths that are good for you. End of story. Unless you're working with darkness, and that could be called dark guides, right? Because the higher density entities that come in to try and control through fear, they're guides. That's, they're guides on that dark path. It's not much different than it's actually not different at all than connecting in with Merlin. The difference is that Merlin is aligned with the light, and the light and the love, the oneness and the freedom, and the dark entity is greeting you, is another way to think of it. They're greeting you with information and knowledge, and usually the way that they do it is to trick you, right? Deceit and trickery, to try and get you to do things that are not good for you, or do things to control other people. And it's through your controlling other people that those dark entities gain their power. You become sort of an enslaved of theirs, and through that enslavement they receive a lot of your energy. They take it almost, because you're giving it to them willingly by participating, and that's how you protect against the darkness, is by understanding that both polarities are going to come at you, but the dark polarities, when they come to you, like these are situations like where you may suddenly feel like you're driving, and tell me if you've ever experienced this, but you're driving and then you get this urge to just pull into oncoming traffic. Now, it's not something that you want to do, and it's not something you're going to follow through. It's an uninvited thought that's come straight in, makes no sense to you, and you're like, no, I'm not going to do that. That's likely a greeting from a negative entity. That's what I believe anyways. And there's different people will have different opinions. The medical community will say that it's something different, right? And that's totally fine. It doesn't matter. There's no difference to me. You could say that it's a worm that's come in through the subconscious, whether it's a creation of your own thing, or if it's a dark entity, there's not much difference. It's still something that needs to be healed. And it's by bringing awareness to these different things that helps us navigate them, right? So I don't say any of this to be freaky, because it's really not. You are a sovereign being. You are in control of all of it. It's what you choose to allow in, and your guides want to come help you. They're sitting there just lovingly cheering you on and just opening their heart to you. And if you open your heart to them, then you're in a good spot to start opening up the lines of communication. Once those lines get opened, they're open, and you're ready to go. As you get more, like, you may find that it's easier. In my last video, I talked about connecting to your higher self. That you can use the exact same method in that video. So it was just the last one uploaded, and it's called, I think, How to Connect with Your Higher Self. And you can go to that video and use the same technique to contact your spirit guides, and then see how they come through. A lot of times they'll come through as animals, or they'll show you. And that's the other thing too, is a lot of us have animal spirit guides, or spirit totems, I think is another word for them. So, for me, I see bunnies all over the place, and they follow me around. And sometimes I'll be sitting just outside, and I'll just sort of call for the bunnies, and they just show up, and it's so magical. I don't even know how to explain it, other than they are my guides. This bunny energy is something that I have as a guide. That's the only way I know how to explain it, because it's so surreal when it occurs. But I don't like to do it that much, because I feel like I'm wasting their time, right? I'm wasting the bunnies' time. I'm like, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, bunnies. I didn't know you were gonna just come. I didn't want to interrupt whatever foraging you were doing. You know what I mean? But I know it's silly, but I don't know. It's happened so many times that I can't think it's coincidence, and I don't even believe in coincidence anyway. So it only takes a few times like that for me to go, oh my gosh, yeah, okay, that's real. I'm calling in the bunnies. Or if, for example, if I'm really not taking care of myself, if I'm avoiding my own needs, if I'm avoiding doing what I need to do for myself, wasps will land on me, and they'll land like right on my cheek, walk all along my face and stuff like that. And because they have stingers, I was a little hesitant to let them do that at first, but a wasp represents the self, and doing things that's in the best interest of the self, for the good of all. So, if that makes sense. So the wasp, they're like, they're self-centered little beings, right? They do what is best for them so that they can do what is best for the hive. That's what they do. And so when the wasps land on me, that's what it means. And these animal connections started occurring after I started following the druid's path and became a druid, which was a little while ago. And so they can show up in so many different ways, but the point is that really it's so simple. We just have to let them in. They're almost at the door knocking, right? And if you listen quietly, you might hear them. So I know this wasn't a super practical way, but I really just wanted to share my experience on how I connect with my guides. It's so different. Some people have to go into meditation. Some people do automatic writing is another way for them to come through. Other people, like myself, just have these frequencies come in all the time. So for me, my mind's just scrambled all the time. I really need to try and balance all the time, because I seem to pull in so much energy, and I make all these different connections constantly, and my guides are like this, and this, and this. And it's overwhelming, to be honest. So that's what happens with me. Again, like the entire thing, all of this comes from your will. It comes from your heart and your intent and your willingness to believe that this is real. So that's that's really the trick. That's the whole trick. Believe in your guides, for they are there. I promise you they're there. I would bet my life on it that we have these frequencies, and that we connect with these frequencies. I believe that we are, as human beings, antennas to receive these frequencies. The frequencies themselves, the guides, are all different energetic frequencies that they vibrate at different rates, different levels, and different. It's almost like different radio stations in some ways. Like you tune yourself to radio station 1 and you hear this type of message, and then you turn yourself to radio station 2 and you hear this one. It's a lot like that. And so the more we work with our guides, the more clear it becomes, the better of a connection we have. Some of the connections are what's called narrow bands. So they require much more focused connections. So almost like you need to go into meditation and really ground. And this is when I think people are, like when people are channeling, this is where they're at usually. It's a narrow band connection. Or if they're doing more a bigger collective type connection, it's more wide band, so it's more accessible without huge concentration. So there's even different complexities to the levels of working with the guides. And I can't speak about this in ways that like will teach you exactly how to do it, because it's different for everyone. But it's an internal process, and it's through your belief and your deconstruction of the things that oppose that belief that will allow your guides in, because they're not going to come in if you don't believe in them. They won't, because they can't break through that resistance. You're not consenting. You're not consenting to their presence, and until you consent, they're not going to come. And they also won't come if you consent but feel scared of them. They're not going to come because they don't want to promote any fear. But I've had some really strange encounters with guides and different entities and spirits, and it's all been amazing. It's all been magical, and it's all been just pure great. I have been visited by dark entities before, and I can talk about that in a different video. I don't like to talk about that stuff too much because, it's just not. I don't know if it's worth talking about. If we talk about more about how to be love and light and how to focus on serving others, and when we have darkness come in and try to trick us into something, we literally just, no thanks. It's that simple. The trick, I've mentioned this in a few videos, but the main trick is if something comes in and says, you're a fat idiot, you just say, that's not me. That's not for me. Things like that. Because that's the type of trickery that they use. They'll sort of implant these thoughts, and thought implantation is real. They'll implant a thought that says, oh, your wife's cheating on you, just so you know, whether it's true or not, right? They just throw that at you, and you're like, oh, and that changes everything about your feeling. Like you're like, now I'm having this psychic understanding that my wife's cheating on me. So that now starts to change what you're doing, right? Because now you start to go into investigation mode, and maybe she is cheating on you, which is, that's one of the ways that they'll weasel in, is they'll give you some truth and then they'll mix in some deceit. But the main thing that they're trying to do is just disrupt and distract you from the healing of the self, because what they don't want you to do is heal, and open up to creative infinity and connect with source. That they're trying to stop you from doing that, more or less. And so if they can keep you in this negative vibe, that's what they'll do. And so they'll find any ways that they can to do it, whether it's a mind, spirit, or physical body manifestation or distortion that comes through. So I hope you guys found that helpful. It feels like I just sort of talked about how I do everything, and I guess I sort of did, but again, it's so personal. It's not something like that we can just just have this step-by-step guide that everyone can use. Other than the thing that I said with the higher self in sort of a meditative state, that should be the most effective way to get first contact with your guides, I would say, and see how they come through. And hopefully that helped. If you liked the video, click that like button. It really helps with the channel. If you want to share this with any of your friends that are working on this type of stuff with you, I'd really appreciate it, and I'm sure they would as well if you found it helpful. And thanks so much for watching. I love all your faces, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.